How's it going, folks? Recording another best ball draft. This one is the Best Ball Mania $1 million prize pool. Or is it $1 million to first? It might be $1 million to first. But regardless, $25 buy-in. Looking like we got pick number 7. And been mostly focusing on advanced tournament strategy this summer. Did a lot of best ball cash games in the past. And not really going to focus on those as much. They're pretty profitable, but I'd want to take more swings at, the larger amounts of money. So a few of the things we've picked up for these tournaments are going a little lighter on running backs with 4 or 5 running backs. You can especially go down to 4 if you have all the bye weeks and you're able to stagger them out, which bye week should be available shortly. I believe the whole schedule is released tonight, so starting tomorrow or whatever, could start getting into some more 4 RB builds, drafting 9 wide receivers. Going to stick to 3 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends because of this, the way the tournaments are set up. You don't have as much time. Ooh, wow, we're going to get a really good pick here at 7. Either Kelsey or Jonathan Taylor. Be happy with either one. So the way the tournaments are set up, if you're to miss a quarterback week, it's just huge, whereas missing a tight end week doesn't screw you as much just because the average points a tight end scores a lot lower than the average points. All right. This stinks to have to take Kelsey with Taylor on the board, but it's pretty hard to get Kelsey shares. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a Kelsey share there. Last year, he was the biggest difference maker in best ball as far as win percentage went. Definitely could be behind Jonathan Taylor for this season, that's for sure. Taylor has a really nice schedule. But we're going to take the number 1 difference maker from last year in Kelsey, especially since the Chiefs really didn't add anything as far as pass catchers. 1 late round draft pick, and they lost Sammy Watkins, so they're really going to have to lean on Tyreek and Kelsey more so than even before. Not really sure what it means for Mecole Hardman. People are pretty excited about him, but I could see them just divvying up Watkins' work between Pringle and Robinson. Not really much happening for Hardman. Obviously, if Hardman does get a big bump in targets, he could have a really good season because he's fast and efficient and all that stuff. So again, yeah, the fact that you're basically playing this league out through only 13 weeks or something because you have to win your initial league to advance to the next round, and then you have to win that league to advance to the next round in these big tournaments. Because you have less weeks, missing a quarterback week just destroys you. So that's why we're always going to go 3 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends. You can maybe miss a tight end week and skirt through it, but you cannot miss a QB week. Especially in this draft, we drafted Travis Kelce, so if he gets hurt, our tournament team is fucked anyway, so there's not really a whole bunch of point in trying to figure out what we will do if he gets hurt. We're just not going to win if he gets hurt. That is our plan for if he gets hurt. So we can even probably take a little bit later of a second tight end. A lot of times I'm trying to get 2 decent tight ends because I'm only picking 2, but if I'm picking Kelsey or Kittle or Waller, then I'm fine having a weaker second tight end, as they really shouldn't be getting in there that often. Had my second COVID shot yesterday. Feeling a little tired, but not too terrible. Better than I expected to feel, that's for sure. So who are we looking at for our pick? I wouldn't hate getting Devontae Adams if he was wow, Najee Harris's ADP has went up. I had tons and tons of Najee Harris that I drafted before this. So I will be full fading him at his current ADP. I will not be getting any Najee Harris shares. Here I'll be looking at Adams, A.J. Brown, or Gibson. So that's pretty easy, A.J. Brown here. Don't really see any argument for picking anyone else here. So keep in mind we haven't drafted a running back in round 1 or 2, which is pretty rare. So we're going to want to focus on that in rounds 3 and 4. Obviously, if that's not where the value is, you can go elsewhere. But we at least want to keep in mind the fact that we haven't drafted a running back yet. And stacking purposes, yeah, Tannehill and Mahomes, I guess, should be on our radar. Mahomes will probably go too early for us to bother picking him. The math kind of shows that you really don't want to be taking a quarterback before round 6. It hasn't worked out so far. It could possibly work out. The problem is that the guys who have went up there were coming off monster seasons with 9% touchdown rates, and then they failed the next year because their touchdown rates have went down. It's happened pretty much 3 years in a row, so we'll see what happens with Aaron Rodgers this year because he had a 9% touchdown rate last year. So 3 years ago it was Watson, and then he was much worse the next season. Then it was Mahomes, and he was much worse the next season. Then it was Lamar, and he was much worse the next season. And now it's Aaron Rodgers, and I guess we'll see if he is much worse the next season. Obviously, there's some chance that he might just not play at all, which would make him much, much worse, I suppose. But I do think he'll play in either Green Bay or Denver, one of the two. Right now, what I'm hearing is he's kind of softening his stance. So if I had to pick one, I would say he's probably more likely to play in Green Bay. But are we going to end up a little 0 RB? Definitely could. Just 3 picks before us and 2 running backs that I'm super excited to draft. Montgomery and Jacobs I don't mind, but I'm not really excited for them. Not even really that excited for Miles Sanders, but he does have that home run ability that's really nice in these best balls. I think he had 3 80-yard touchdowns last year, which was mighty nice. So if both of them go off the board, we could consider stacking Mahomes. We could just smash Michael Thomas. Then maybe pick up Winston later. Pray Winston wins out that job because I think if Winston wins that job, the fantasy people in New Orleans will be very, very good. Chris Carson over Dobbins. That's madness. So I will say thank you and take my Dobbins share. I mean, there's obviously some chance that Carson's better than Dobbins, but I'm not taking him over Dobbins. I will be fine taking him later on. I think the work just seems like Seattle really wants to split it up, though. If Penny's not right, they might be forced to use Carson quite a bit again this year. So our next pick, David Montgomery, is somewhat interesting. Glad Mahomes went off the board, so we don't really have to worry about being tempted with that stack. I do think it would still be a little bit too early for me to be interested. Michael Thomas at 310 could be an insane pick for Bad Mother's team. Wonder what his team looks like to start. Akers, Eckler, Michael Thomas. Pretty nice. So we got Dobbins, A.J. Brown, and Kelsey. That was a pretty solid start. Very excited with this. I do not like how early Myles Gaskin goes. I would much prefer to get Mike Davis around later. So right now I'm looking at mostly Josh Jacobs, Amari Cooper. The tiniest interest in Julio Jones. This pick's going to put us in an interesting position here. I guess that's pretty easy then. I mean, I'm not really thrilled to take Josh Jacobs, but I think he's the best running back on the board, and there's nothing else that really is standing out to me. So I'm just going to go ahead and take our second running back. At least Jacobs is a guy who gets those, like kind of bigger games when he has a couple touchdowns or whatever. He tends to be kind of more of a guy that has big games and poop games, so that's all right for best ball. I'm not quite sure if we'll end up on 4 or 5 running backs. If you're all wondering why, you would draft before you 100% for sure know the bye weeks, it really doesn't make much difference. Because, nobody in this league knows what the bye weeks are, so they're all at the same disadvantage that you are. Although I think the bye weeks are being announced as we're doing this draft. But by the time the next draft, I record the next one of these or do the next one of these, I will have bye weeks available to me, and then we'll worry about them then. But for now, not going to worry about that. Myles Gaskin's ADP is just an atrocity to me. People are not in this draft are not in on these running backs at their ADP. I must say I applaud people. I think all of Gaskin, Etienne, and Davis are too high, but I think Mike Davis is a lot better than those other two guys for this season. Gaskin's going to be splitting work with somebody and not getting goal line much, if any, and Mike Davis probably will. So I also think Atlanta's offense is going to be much better than Miami's. Matt Ryan is a lot better than Tua is at the moment, and just the weapons Atlanta has set up. Although Julio Jones could still get traded, I don't think that's going to happen, but it's obviously some percentage possible. So we might be having to decide between a QB, Mike Davis, or a wide receiver. Ooh, not really too interested in ETN here. So I guess I'm between Galladay, Lamar. Let's click over to QB. It's between Lamar and Dak Prescott. I have drafted more Dak Prescott, so I'm going to take Lamar here. It is a little bit of a non-bow to have, Lamar and J.K. Dobbins, but running backs and quarterbacks just don't correlate that strongly one way or the other. I'm sure Lamar and Dobbins probably correlate a little stronger than other, quarterback running back groupings, but I do have just a little bit too much Dak Prescott. I'm starting to try to convince myself to be a little bit more excited about Lamar and that offense being a little better, but I don't know. To be honest, I'm not. I don't think it really will be. I just don't think they can teach him to do what they want to teach him to do. Chase Edmonds still on the board. Chase Edmonds off the board. Cortland Sutton, somebody I'm interested in. It kind of stinks that looks like it's going to be friggin' Drew Lock to start the year, which is disgusting. But Drew Lock can throw the ball far, I guess. I don't really know what else he accomplishes. Javonte Williams off the board. Probably just taking one of the top 3 wide receivers on the board. Nothing too exciting about this pick, really. If Higgins and I go off, we'll take Sutton. If I have to pick between 2 of them, I will not be picking Sutton because I have the most Sutton of all of them. Nice. So we're just going to take Higgins. Not really much of a choice there. That was a pretty cut and dry pick. We haven't had a ton of difficult decisions, at least. So we've got Lamar, Dobbins, Jacobs, A.J. Brown, Higgins, and Kelsey. Don't currently have any stacking. We could shoot for a Bateman or Hollywood Brown later on. Hollywood Brown, definitely a nice best ball own that you really don't want too much in seasonal or dynasty. in quite a few dynasty leagues, and running them is kind of a pain in the ass getting everyone to pay and stuff, but it's worth it once you get into the season. We have this one orphan in one of my leagues that legitimately has like 3 usable assets on the entire team. So it's like impossible to sell. We might end up going to a 10-team league and having dispersal to get rid of the 2 orphans because there's just like no way this one team can be sold. It has Kamara, Eckler, and Robert Woods, and like literally no one else you would want in the entire team. No quarterbacks. It's a super flex league. Doesn't have a single quarterback. Its quarterbacks last year were Minshew and Drew Brees. It is bad. Guy doesn't have his first round pick. He has like a second and a couple thirds. This is just an ugly, ugly team. So, kind of interested to see what other teams have got going on here. So this guy's got Aaron Jones, Chubb, CeeDee Lamb, Evans, Galladay, and Mark Andrews. This guy just like Russ Wilson. He's got Barkley, DK Metcalf to go with Wilson Lockett, so he's got a nice Wilson stack, that's for sure. Only Barkley at running back, but he might be all right there. He's got really strong wide receivers, so obviously, like once you get down to only drafting one running back in like the first 8 rounds, you're just like, that guy gets hurt, you can't possibly win. Not saying like obviously if your first round pick gets hurt, you're in trouble anyway, but I think we're gonna go Trey Sermon here, pick up our 3rd running back. I really like his outlook for this season. Wasn't anybody else that was like too interesting to me there. There was James Robinson. Probably going to take a wide receiver on the way back. Could be a spot where we take Hollywood, but I think the other players around him might be too good to do that. So might kick the can around and then try and get Bateman to see if we can get somebody to go with Lamar. Like I'm not taking Hollywood over LaVisca or Waddle. Anybody else here? I would consider it. I would consider taking him over the rest of these people. Take a look back at running back real quick. See if there's anything we're overlooking. Michael Carter is all right. I think he's going to be really good for this year, be overvalued, and then kind of shit himself next year because I think they'll probably pick up somebody else. So I think he's the guy you're going to want to sell in Dynasty next February, like Devin Singletary was 2 years ago and James Robinson was this year. James Robinson one this year, I will say, was much, much harder. Like harder decision to make than the Devin Singletary one. I think the Michael Carter one is going to be more like the Devin Singletary one. I sold all my J-Rob shares except for one. Just wanted to keep one just in case I was wrong, but turned out to be right, and it's not bad because I sold 3 shares of him. Got Mixon, Christian Kirk, and a 3rd round pick for 1 share. All those trades are pretty good. Wow. Definitely would like LaVisca Chenault the most of these people that are on the board. Not particularly close. Excellent. I'm a big Chenault fan with the coaching staff change, and the second half of last year, he just like outplayed Chark pretty badly. I think just like head to head, I'd rather have LaVisca. Like Chark's going into the last year of his contract. They don't really seem all that interested in retaining him. They haven't like put any effort towards it. So I'm not sure how much he'll get used. I mean, obviously he'll get used a lot if he does well. Like he's going to start off getting targets and targets and targets, but He's going to have to play a lot better than he did last year and not piss and moan about the quarterback like he did last year, which shouldn't be a problem since he will have a significantly better quarterback this year. So far we got Lamar, got Dobbins, Jacobs, Sermon, A.J. Brown, Higgins, Laviska, and Travis Kelce. Pretty decent looking team. Start considering a second quarterback, but not really in any rush to. I finally have my Winston ownership percentage up where I want it, so I don't really need to be like trying to make sure I get him at all. I'm surprised there's so many running backs on this board. They're just like not good. Oh, AJ Dillon. That is a running back that I have some interest in. I think like an early season Aaron Jones injury make AJ Dillon a league winner in round 9. There's Fournette and Ronald Jones on the board, but they do not excite me as much as AJ Dillon does. Is there anything really here that excites me for wide receivers? Wouldn't mind Bateman, but I'd rather wait and see if he falls around. Let's take AJ Dillon here. I think AJ Dillon's going to get a lot of run with Aaron Jones, and if something happens to Aaron Jones, I think he going nuclear. Obviously, some of that will depend on Aaron Rodgers, but when he got his brief chance to show out last year, he thumped Tennessee to the tune of 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. I have Laviska, so I do have some interest in snatching up Trevor Lawrence if he makes it to us. He did not. Bateman's still on the board. Bateman is still on the board. Might grab him here to go with Lamar. Not in any rush to take another running back. We might just go 4 running backs. Could still go 5 if just someone interesting is there when we happen to pick later. Really isn't much left that's interesting to me at running back. Tiny interest in Leonard Fournette. Tiny interest in James Conner. No interest in Gus Edwards because I already have Dobbins. If I didn't already have Dobbins, I would have some interest in Gus Edwards. Tiny bit in Naheem Hines, but not much. Could take Fournette this next pick. Maybe push Bateman another round. Oh, there goes Fournette. So definitely not taking a running back now. Don't think I was going to anyway, but. All right, let's take Bateman. He's just as good as any of these other guys on the board. Obviously, he is a stack piece for Lamar. So, could still look at a Tannehill or a Burrow to get a little more stacking going. Trey Lance's like ADP seems way too high considering the fact that there's still some mystery to if he will start week 1. The rumor mill seems to be no, he won't, but I don't know if I believe that. It's going to be hard for like him and Jimmy G to compete in camp. Jimmy G to beat him out, but certainly be possible. So on the board now, my most interesting person is Tannehill to go with A.J. Brown, followed by like a whole bunch of wide receivers. What about tight end? Anything interesting going on there? We got Ferkster to go with Tannehill and A.J. Brown. That's somewhat interesting. Not like in this coming round. I don't mind like Hooper or Troutman or Cook or Komet as my second tight end when I have Kelce. Normally I would not want one that poor. We're only 4 picks away, so let's see if we get sniped on Tannehill. Yeah. Brady off the board's annoying, so we got 2 people with 1 quarterback in front of us. Don't like our chances. I'm just trying to jinx us into getting him. Do it. Whew, to a Tango Valua. Thank you. All right. So we got Tannehill and Lamar. Got Bateman and A.J. Brown to go with them. Fantastic. Do need another tight end. Don't really need to super worry about it right away. Might be done at running back. We could grab one more if we really want to. This board of running backs is just a fucking nightmare. Just a disgusting nightmare. Blech. The Miami guys are a little interesting because like one of them is probably going to be pretty good. I don't think Gaskin will be doing goal line. Naheem Hines is also somewhat interesting because he tends to have some really big games in the games where he gets used a lot. So he's not completely off the board. There goes Naheem Hines. So he is actually completely off the board now. He was under consideration for a pick. Darrell Henderson's like a guy that you could kind of use. Let's take a look at wide receiver at the moment. Elijah Moore being higher than Denzel Mims is interesting. That one's not for me. I will take Mims, but definitely could see Elijah Moore being better. I don't have a whole ton of Elijah Moore because he wasn't in the initial run for some reason. They didn't add him as a rookie on Underdog. So I have like basically none of him, but I mean, most people have basically none of him. That kind of tempts me to maybe like grab a share. Probably won't do it here just because we already took Bateman, and I don't really want to have too many rookie wide receivers, especially like this early in the draft. It's going to take another Mims share. I think he has just such a high upside compared to the other guys in this range. I mean, his downside is also like really terrible, and I own way too much of him. So if this is a bad Mims year, it's not going to be a great best ball year for me. I must admit this. So tight end, we're still kicking the can for a while. There's like Jonnu, Hunter Henry, Gronk, Jarwin, just like a bunch of guys we're just not that interested in. Somebody really took Ferkster already. I didn't even notice. Who did that to us? Jonnu off the board. I do like Cole Kmet quite a bit more than Troutman, even though he has more competition with Jimmy Graham still there. Hunter Henry's like the tiniest bit interesting, but not really. Jarwin's been like a big play guy, but coming back from his ACL, and the fact that Dalton Schultz was pretty decent, I could see them splitting reps. Gerald Everett's like not exciting. Both like Kmet and Troutman are mildly exciting, but I mean, I'd be fine getting stuck with Jared Cook or Hooper if that happened. With like Elijah Moore to last to our pick, that would be nice. I don't think it's going to happen though. I think Paris Campbell might be my next favorite wide receiver that's up on the board. Do like De'Ami Brown quite a bit as well. Seems like a big play, guys, too. M. Ryan Dolan. Don't do it to me. Let me live. I'm either going to take Elijah Moore or Paris Campbell, I think. Nice. All right, that might actually be my first share of Elijah Moore because I have not done many drafts in this tournament, and he wasn't in the player pool before this tournament. He was in the rookie only tournaments that I did. Fitzmagic off the board. So at wide receiver, Paris Campbell and De'Ami Brown interest me. Running back, like, I guess Devin Singletary does a tiny bit, but I think if he goes, then Ty Johnson, I guess. No, we're not drafting Ty Johnson. Let's not be fucking ridiculous. I mean, Devin Singletary, at least, like, if Zach Moss gets hurt, and Zach Moss has already been hurt a lot, then Devin Singletary's pretty good. So he gone. All right, I think we're going to stick with 4 running backs in this one. Hope to God we get lucky with a Sermon or A.J. Brown breakout, and you're already going to need, pretty impeccable health to have a chance to win this $1 million tournament, so it's not like you really need to... safety is not like what you're looking for at your running back position, or at any position really, but just want that upside. Speaking of which, let's see what we got for quarterbacks. We have the Zach Wilson double stack if we want it. Probably going to take that over Paris Campbell if it's available. So our pick here is going to be either Zach Wilson or Paris Campbell. Gotta say, pretty tired after that second COVID shot. Definitely wipes you out a bit. So we don't need any more quarterbacks. We're not going to take any more running backs. We could use one more, but there just isn't any value out there. Just not worth it. Especially in this style of tournament. So who would we like with our next pick? Obviously, if Paris Campbell fell down, that would be nice. De'Ami Brown, Kadarius Toney's a little interesting. Then we're into like other tiers of players down this way. Tight end still has like a bunch of just like the same junk that's been on the board for a while. We could go Chris Herndon, but we don't really want to go super stacked with Zach Wilson here. The percentages show that like having 3 pass catchers for your quarterback is actually a negative win percentage. I know we're shooting for the moon, but and some people say that when you're shooting for the moon, you need that quarterback to be so good. So it's fine to have 3 pass catchers. I don't know. The math is pretty clearly shows that is not the case. There's Komet and Gronk. Paris Campbell went off. So we're down to Gerald Everett, Austin Hooper, and Chris Herndon that I would even roster as tight ends. So I suppose if one of those 3 make it to us, we'll be taking one of those 3. I wish Gerald Everett. So what are we looking at if we get into a desperation situation? We could end up with Dawson Knox, which is fucking terrifying. So he just doesn't do anything. He's fantastic and makes these crazy highlight reel plays once in a great while, but other than that, he's just ass. Freiermuth is pretty interesting. He's probably going to play more than Eric Ebron because of his ability to block. I think he's a better red zone target than Eric Ebron. But, he is a rookie, and rookie tight ends tend to not do a lot, so we want to kind of shy away from that if we can. So I'm going to go with Hooper if Hooper doesn't go. If Hooper does go, we are going to go with the 3 stack. We don't need any more tight ends. I guess the rest of our picks will be wide receivers. Would have been nice to get De'Ami Brown there, but I don't think I could kick the can on tight end another round. It was just going to get too nasty. Austin Hooper's at least a reasonably good player. So we got Lamar, Tannehill, Zach Wilson. We've got stack pieces for all of them. Got Bateman for Lamar, A.J. Brown for Tannehill, and Mims and Elijah Moore for Zach Wilson. Only going with 4 running backs this time. Obviously, massive risk. But like, if this type of team hits, this is the type of team that wins tournaments. The guy that won the 200K last year, Underdog, only drafted 4 running backs, and one of his running backs was Tony Pollard, who really didn't do a whole lot. He did have that one like really nice game where Zeke was out, but so that guy essentially won the tournament with 3-ish running backs and a guest appearance. Brian Edwards, a little interesting. Oof. Getting down into the nasties down here. Nico Collins is a guy I wouldn't mind taking a shot on because Texans are going to have a friggin' huge volume of passing just because they're going to get their heads kicked in every week. Marcus Callaway is like a tiny bit interesting for the Saints. They didn't pick up another wide receiver, so Traquan's probably going to be the 2 for the Saints. But Traquan tends to disappear most of the time, so I mean, if Callaway can play well enough, he might. AJ Green. Oh, Jesus, why? Don't draft AJ Green, folks. No. Not now. Not ever. Okay, maybe like 6 years ago, but he has been stank for a while. So it looks like everyone's pretty much got 4 or 5 running backs. Ooh, Eskridge off the board. Come on, just don't be Brown or Tony so I can pick one of the 2. Not Brown or Tony. Those are definitely the players I like the most that are still on the board. After those 2, probably Nico Collins. Oh, come on, man. Yes! Wow. This feels like a steal. We have too many rookie wide receivers, but shit happens. Just got to take the best players available. And I don't think there was too much a question on these last couple of picks that they were the best players available, just happened to be rookies. So it looks like we're going to go 9 wide receivers here. 3 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 9 wide receivers, and 2 tight ends. Who are we looking at for wide receivers? Not super interested in Tyrell Williams. Jacoby Myers I am somewhat interested in. He's going to have to compete for the slot role, which sounds pretty nasty. There's Amari Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers is around, he's not bad. There's KJ Hamler, who was actually on the winning underdog team from last year because he had a couple big weeks near the end of the year. Don't hate that. There's Cephas that's worth taking a shot on. Detroit wide receiver crew is terrible. Might grab Callaway just because I haven't taken him in any of these drafts yet. Scanning the depths down here. So Callaway is on my radar. Amari Rodgers is on my radar. KJ Hamler, Demarcus Robinson. I'm going to take my Callaway share. See what happens with him. Then we'll be looking at maybe KJ Hamler. No, he went. Des Fitzpatrick is a little interesting. Don't really want Pringle. Cephas is a guy I would take for sure. Someone I would like to take a shot on if he makes it to us. Man, can't believe Tamori and Terry didn't get drafted after watching his highlight films. It was a hard one to believe. Demarcus Robinson's still pretty interested in me. I know that organization keeps talking up Byron Pringle, but I mean, Robinson's played ahead of him for 2 years now. And I don't really see what would change that. So, people of interest: Demarcus Robinson. I mean, Lazard still could do stuff. I think that Amari Rodgers is going to play in the slot, so it's going to kind of Lazard versus MVS on the outside, which probably makes them both kind of poop. I'm locked in on Cephas unless he gets picked before us. If he does, then we'll figure it out at that point. Darrington Evans, huh? Don't really like that pick. I think Brian Hill is the main backup to Derrick Henry, so even if Derrick Henry gets hurt, I don't think Darrington Evans becomes that good, but could be wrong. Could end up being Evans. All right, we'll take Cephas. Not a guy I've drafted very much of, but I don't think Amon-Ra St. Brown is anything special, and Perryman is absolute poop, and Tyrell Williams probably going to get hurt because that's what he does. Cephas could end up just being better than all three of those players. Doubt who's better than Amon-Ra St. Brown, but the other two definitely. He could just be better than them at this point in their careers. So, really good stacking on this one. We got Bateman to go with Lamar. We got A.J. Brown to go with Tannehill. We got both Elijah Moore and Mims to go with Zach Wilson. Our running back group obviously looks a little motley, but from what we've done in our studying this summer on, the advanced tournament stuff and how to win tournaments, this is kind of the way you got to go. You got to go either 4 or 5 running backs and get those extra wide receivers. 5 running backs is still preferable to me, but there's sometimes, if you're looking at the board like we were, and after Devin Singletary went off, there wasn't just a single person that had you want someone that has weekly usability that also can become really good with an injury, like an AJ Dillon or Gus Edwards, someone like that. Devin Singletary is sort of in that group, even though his weekly is kind of crappy. But I mean, at least he does stuff. Once you just start getting to pure handcuffs, they're just the fact that they're just rotting, smoking you with zeros at the beginning of the year is too terrible. Obviously, a preseason injury can change things there, but from what we've seen of the teams that have won these bigger tournaments, they've really only been going with the handcuffs that actually do things in games, like a Tony Pollard and those type of people. Anyways, that's the end of this draft. Good luck in your drafts, folks.